Batman's sleep schedule would destroy any human being to the point that you most certainly would fall asleep at the wheel of the Batplane or just during your attempt to walk over to your car. One of my favorite subjects to learn about from my physiology professor that is really becoming much more apparent in the modern age is the consequences of sleep. In this video, you will understand all of the crazy, horrible things that might happen to you if you were to try one of the most bizarre sleep schedules a human being has ever concocted. Bruce Wayne, or Batman, has a practically endless amount of tasks that he shovels his way through every single day, which includes patrolling Gotham City, martial arts training sessions, workouts, studying case files, running a multi-billion-dollar company, designing new gadgets, press events, and Justice League meetings, making it near impossible for him to ever get a full night's sleep. At least if he wasn't following the most diabolical sleep routine he could ever concoct as the craziest sleep routine anyone could ever see or attempt. Batman's sleep schedule has been shown as being rather erratic, to where on a surface level you may think it's practically nothing at all. Normally, Batman's day sees him working as Bruce Wayne, managing Wayne Enterprises during the day. Then as night falls, we see him donning the cape and cowl for what has been mentioned by Gordon in Batman's first year on the job as being between the hours of midnight to 4 a.m. From what we see in films and shows, in his earlier years, Bruce then sleeps until around noon, and assuming it takes him at least 1 hour to get back to the Batcave, shower, eat more blended food, and then hit the sack, we can assume that Bruce is getting around 7 hours of sleep from the hours of 5 a.m. to noon. However, in the following years, in several comics and shows like Beware the Batman, Bruce is shown that he on average gets about 4 hours of sleep a day, while being on a constant blender diet of greens, protein shakes, and every experimental brain-enhancing drug he could find and down in 5 seconds flat, supposedly allowing him to lower that sleep threshold as close to zero as possible before he inevitably would have to crash. A crash that he has cleverly figured out a way around, ensuring that he can remain alert at pretty much any part of the day 24/7. So when a Gotham or Justice League level threat decides to break out, he's never caught sleeping on the job. Cause it's in these later years that Bruce conceives of a way to always be ready, a way that gives him unlimited power that would be far too dangerous for anyone to successfully attempt. Something called microsleeping. You see, after going through the pain of having to sleep for 4 hours a night and eventually 2, Bruce next attempted and supposedly mastered the art of polyphasic sleeping, which is when someone breaks up a regular once per day or monophasic sleep schedule into many sessions spread throughout the day. Such as someone sleeping merely 3 hours at one set time, followed by 3 20-minute sessions spread throughout the day, totaling 4 hours of sleep that is specifically known as the everyman schedule. Eventually, he tried triphasic sleep, where he would then sleep for an hour and a half-ish 3 times a day, and after that, the one that really caught our raging billionaire's attention was one known as the Da Vinci Uberman sleep schedule, where an individual takes 6 20-minute naps throughout the day, totaling a max of just 2 hours of sleep. But no, this still wasn't enough. Bruce had to push himself further. I mean, why not? And this is where he attempted a schedule of just microsleeping. A routine where Batman, whether he's sitting in his chair, reading a book, looking at case files on the back computer, purposely falls unconscious for 15 seconds or less before rapidly regaining consciousness as he continues to work like nothing happened. Basically, his brain just randomly decides to take a break and checks out. If you ever found yourself doing the old head nod in the middle of class only to snap back awake, that is microsleep, and most people may not realize it's happening, which is why it's best not to drive, let alone fly around in a stealth jet over a populated city while doing this. But hey, the world ain't gonna save itself. And he has been said to almost exclusively do this with maybe a longer 1-hour nap here and there sprinkled into his week. I mean, this would mean that Bats, at his lowest point, would only be getting 15 to 30 minutes of sleep a day, and at most something like an hour and a half. This would be nearly impossible for an individual to follow indefinitely, let alone for more than a few days without serious repercussions. And this is where we get into the insane consequences of following this schedule. And you know, similar to what we've gone over in the videos detailing things like Batman's absurd wealth and training routine amongst other things, there are some drawbacks, to say the least, to trying to copy the guy 100%. Every human being on the planet generally needs somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. And according to sleep researchers, the percent of human beings that can get away with less than 5 hours of sleep without suffering any consequences is 0%. If we follow Batman's history and start with his first night owl sleep routine where he gets roughly 7 to 8 hours a day, it's safe to say practically all of us would be moderately fine. However, as we progress into his 4-hour routine, this is where things really take a plunge. The immediate impacts of this would first cause dramatic mood swings to occur. You would become extremely irritable, easily frustrated, and altogether would be very emotionally volatile, making it harder to maintain any relationships or stay level-headed under any pressure. Also, the severe cognitive impairment that comes with this lifestyle would sink in. Within 1 or 2 nights of 4 hours of sleep, your working memory, focus, and decision-making abilities would decline sharply. You would experience a whole new universe of brain fog and struggle to do much of anything with any amount of skill, and not to mention your ability to process complex information will be on its way out the door. This is also likely where you will feel the physical fatigue really set in, as in your body will feel much heavier, your coordination will suck, and your risk of accidents, injuries, tripping down the stairs, or let alone on a blade of grass will skyrocket. Lastly, while your immune system declines, your memory for recalling details, let alone learning any new skill or piece of information, will also drop to where it's really not much of anything at all. In the long term, say after a week or more, this is where the chronic inflammation begins, where your body's stress response will remain so elevated that it will lead to a systemic inflammation that will cause noticeable damage to tissues and organs. Your hormonal imbalances will become more rampant as stress and growth hormones become disrupted, leading to weight gain, muscle loss, and accelerated aging. And lastly, severe mental fog will have set in, as in you will experience hallucinations, paranoia, and will be at severe risk of serious mental health conditions like depression or anxiety. However, then we have our nightmarish micro sleep only schedule. Get ready, cause on a sleep routine of just micro naps, the short-term effects that would happen to your body in the coming days to weeks would include extreme cognitive impairment. Your brain would remain in a state of persistent sleep deprivation. Tasks requiring focus, problem solving, or decision making would feel nearly impossible. At this point, no proper REM or deep sleep would be happening, so your ability to consolidate memories would degrade rapidly. You would have a huge tendency to forget any recent event and struggle to form new memories at all. Beyond this, your reaction time for any activity, including everyday activities like driving or just walking, would become too dangerous to possibly attempt due to your extremely delayed reflexes. And speaking of your physical and motor dysfunction, coordination-wise, your muscle memory and motor skills rely on deep sleep for consolidation, and microsleeps can't support any of this, leading to you becoming incredibly clumsy. You will find lifting up a spoon or pouring yourself a cup of coffee to be a little strenuous. As due to the lack of deep sleep, your muscles will also not be able to repair themselves from everyday wear and tear, let alone if you decide to work out. Your emotional instability will also go off the charts, leading you to constant emotional outbursts, and perhaps worst of all is you would become subject to a barrage of micro sleep crashes. A horrible life where you would unpredictably fall asleep while doing darn near anything. Imagine blacking out mid-conversation, while in mid-sentence, while walking down some stairs or sipping on your tea, driving, or in a critical situation. These microsleep crashes would pose serious risk to your safety and that of others. But then, we get into the mid-term effects as days now turn into weeks. As the body demands more rest, microsleeps would happen constantly. You would begin to experience status microsleeps, where your brain alternates between being awake and asleep within seconds, making sustained focus on doing anything impossible. At this point, this is where the neurological damage sets in. Persistent deprivation will cause a rapid cognitive degradation to set on in, damaging your prefrontal cortex, leading to long-term memory issues, reduced IQ, and fantastically poor judgment. Auditory and visual hallucinations will become the status quo, and you may also develop paranoia or psychosis, where you have lost all touch with reality and you are living in your own la-la land. During this midterm, your immune system will outright collapse as you watch chronic infections, inflammation, and even autoimmune diseases arise, along with obesity and diabetes occurring from a plummeting insulin sensitivity. At this point, if you don't die of a heart attack or stroke during this time, then we get into the long-term effects of Batman's micro-sleeping schedule. Get ready. As weeks now turn into months, welcome to the end. As the immense strain that has been placed on your body and organs causes a system-wide organ damage, breakdown, and failure to occur, your kidneys will begin to cease. Your liver will struggle to eliminate any toxins from your body, as lack of proper recovery during deep sleep results in catabolism, where your body breaks down muscle tissue for energy and whatever it can. And as your body exists in a state of perpetual exhaustion, making recovery for any of its systems or tissues unlikely, even with increased rest at this point, now a case of fatal insomnia will take hold, where a cacophony of system-wide organ failure, immune collapse, and ultimately neurological shutdown will happen, where the brain can no longer sustain consciousness, resulting in death. Which all points to why getting as good of sleep as you can each and every night is vital. But if none of this was very interesting, then I saved one fact for last. Because of the immense need of microsleep, Bruce has poured millions into attempting to R&D his way around this, making sure his body gets all the rest it needs while maximizing the time he can work. In fact, Batman is said to be worth well over $100 billion in his world. Except the reality of his wealth is much more bizarre and grand than that, as we go over everything Batman owns to figure out just how rich he is in this episode. See you in the next one.